Welcome to Untold Horrors, the podcast where your hosts, Jamie and Steph, sacrifice their free time, and probably their sanity, to mine the depths of Tubi in search of hidden treasures. Each week, they'll fire up Tubi, spin the roulette of despair, and let Tubi's keyword search decide their fate. Join your intrepid explorers as they laugh, scream, and occasionally question their life choices, one obscure horror flick at a time. Untold Horrors, because Tubi's algorithm has no mercy, and neither do we. Let the roulette spin, and let the suffering begin.
Here's how to play Tubi Roulette. Go to Tubi, type in a search term, hit enter, and quickly scan the options. Pick a film in 60 seconds from the first 9 to 12 results. No scrolling. No trailers. No mercy.
Let the games begin!
Okay, so it's time for us to pick what we're going to watch next week. And Jamie, you have the pleasure of picking the theme this week. What do you want to choose for us?
Keeping with the theme of December, I believe I'll go with Santa horror.
Okay.
Pick a movie, please.
Santa horror. Let me go to Tubi and see what we've got for Santa horror. We've got Werewolf Santa, Psycho Santa, Santa Stun, Chris Massacre looks pretty good.
I was just going to say Chris Massacre. We mentioned that last time, I think.
Yeah. But I feel like it's not Santa horror-y enough.
No. We have to be Santa specific.
Okay. There's Santa Jaws, but I just can't do it.
Oh.
Because I know it looks so fun, but I know it's gonna be it's just brutally bad. And I don't think I'm ready for it.
But I thought you had no complaints when it came to shark movies.
I don't, but I feel like sometimes those there's 9 billion of them, and I feel like 99% of them are exactly the same, and I just stop being creative at a certain point,
Well, you haven't seen Shark Exorcist yet.
No.
Donald Farmer, I believe his name is, the director.
All right, I think I want to go with, since we're supposed to do this pretty quickly, I think I want to go with a movie called Santa Isn't Real.
Well, that's on point.
Yeah. It looks, I don't know. It looks like it has potential. I don't know if it has potential to be good or bad. I'm not quite sure, but the cover is intriguing.
Yeah, the face of the Santa is definitely of the rubbery mask variety. So
yeah. All right. Well, so Santa Isn't Real. Well, that'll be our film for next week. All right, we are back and ready to talk about our latest Tubi Roulette pick. The theme was Santa horror, and we are talking about Santa Isn't Real, which is a low-budget indie horror film that was released around this time last December. So pretty recent new holiday horror film that we're going to be diving into. And spoiler alert, I have a lot to say about this one.
What?
Well, I'm laughing because I have a lot of notes, and surprisingly for this film, which is also, we've been doing this trend, which I'm not complaining about, where we're watching pretty short films.
Yes, it's great.
I don't know how long this one is, but it's under an hour and a half. I think it's not much over an hour. It's like an hour and 15 or something.
16, hour and 16.
All right, well, it's very, very close.
See, I pay attention.
And in spite of that, I feel like I have a ridiculous amount of notes for a film that is that short and really there's not much of a plot. So that's kind of bananas.
Well, hey, whatever moves you to write, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if I was moved in a good way, but I was definitely moved in some way to take notes.
Well,
I guess
okay.
let's start. Let's not go into details. Let's not talk about specifics. But do you want to just start with general impressions?
Well, my general impression is that it reminded me of sort of like the young adult novel version of a giallo, sort of. Even though we kind of know who the culprit of this fine masked killer Santa movie is, like, I don't know, fairly quickly. It had like a giallo. It had like a giallo feeling to it. There were like interpersonal dynamics, and it was just like stalkerish, slasherish, but it like had a little more interpersonal drama, which I noticed a lot of giallos do as well. And I liked the attempt at gore. The gore looked like cranberry sauce in some places, and like steak, medium rare in other places. My general impression is, first of all, Multiverse Zendaya was the standout in the movie, I think. And the second time I watched it, I was impressed by her even more. What did you think? Do you think my assessment of the YA giallo is a correct one?
I think calling this giallo-esque is mighty generous of you. And perhaps it's the Christmas spirit that's making you giving, and I appreciate that. But
I said
boy,
esque.
oh boy. Yeah, I think even esque is a gift that you're giving this film.
Are you about to shit on a motion picture?
No, I'm not going to. I'm gonna keep it refined and respectful, but I just, I think you said a lot of things that were kind, and not that there's anything wrong with kind. I think giallo-esque is kind. I think strong interpersonal relationships is kind. I think there's a lot of generosity, a very generous spirit, which is beautiful. All right, I want to start off my sort of assessment of this film by saying that one of the reasons that I believe that I have so many notes, because I'm scrolling through the notes and they aren't notes of substance. What they are is me writing down practically every line of dialogue from this movie, because every line of dialogue from this movie is absolutely unhinged. And I kind of want to say in a good way. But when I say the word good, I mean good in that it is so fucking bananas that it's pretty entertaining. It's nutty. It's a real nutter butter. Starts nutty from like almost the first minute of the film, and it doesn't stop. It just like maintains that full throttle velocity for the entire time. There's a line. So we start with our main girl, who you said you were very impressed with, which is also interesting.
Multiverse Zendaya.
Because the performances are something else. But we start with her. She's home alone, getting ready for Christmas. I guess like Christmas Eve, and Santa comes down the chimney.
I'm sorry. I was going to say I called that guy Floaty Feet. It's a real. This Santa is a very particular Santa. Yes.
He's in a very questionably stuffed Santa costume. And he's wearing a very questionable mask that I cannot begin to describe to you.
Dollar store.
But yeah, for some reason wearing and I will say this, the mask is pretty fucking creepy.
Oh, very creepy.
Because it's like Uncanny Valley type shit.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
Oh, good. No, go ahead.
No, it's like they intentionally tried to make it look as fake as possible because they knew that would make it creepier. Like realism, like fakeness is scarier than realism.
Yeah, he's definitely creepy, in an off-putting sort of way. And so he shows up and slits her wrist. And then I think, if I remember, doesn't he hit her over the head with a snow globe or something?
He hits her with something. She's just sort of she just flails her arms, and he just sort of throws knocks her arm over, and suddenly there's a cut on her wrist that's really nowhere near her wrist, and she just kind of lays there and flops around. And then to knock her out completely, he whacks her. And the effect there I thought was really cool because she drops her eggnog and it breaks. The glass breaks in the rug, and they focus in on the rug, and the blood is filling in with the whiteness of the eggnog. That was a neat little detail.
This encounter puts her in a coma for 1 year.
Yeah.
And we start where she's waking up for her coma. We start the movie proper where she's waking up for this 1 year coma. And because of the nature of how this kill happened, everyone thinks that she tried to kill herself. But it's interesting because there's not a lot of sympathy for that, or everybody's really just annoyed with her, this fucking girl.
Yeah, they accuse her of things that I don't ever notice her doing, the everything's about you.
Well, I guess we because we don't meet her before the incident.
It's true.
So we don't know what kind of person she is, and I guess they sort of imply she was very self-absorbed. Now, either she was, or she's got shitty friends, or a combination of both, because I think she does have shitty friends.
Yes, she certainly does.
She wakes up in the hospital, and the doctor, she's talking to a doctor, maybe a shrink, at the hospital, and she says, "I didn't kill myself. It was someone else." Which, to me, any sane person thinks somebody tried to kill me, somebody tried to murder me. And what the doctor says without blinking an eye is, "Are you saying you weren't yourself that night?" Which is such a fucking crazy ass thing to say. Basically, she's calling her a delusional psychotic to her face.
Yeah.
Without even pretending to. And listen, if she is psychotic, they believe she tried to kill herself. So you would think they would be a little bit fragile with her, a little kid glove her a bit, so that they don't send her over the edge more so. Because to their knowledge, she tried to kill herself and then landed herself in a coma for 1 year. And that's all that's happened. It's not like she's been in recovery for a year. She's been in a coma for a year.
And
so she would still be pretty fucked up, I would imagine.
Cutting your wrist doesn't put you in a coma for a year, but that bash on the head probably did. So it's funny they didn't ask her, hey, by the way, how did you knock yourself out with that snow globe?
Yeah, they believe that she cut her wrist and then bashed her head in. And then, like, it's okay. So right away, the setup for this, I'm like, I'm sorry. What? That's where we're starting. And I would love to say that it gets better and more coherent from there, but it does not, my friends. That where we start is setting the pace for the entire film. And then she wakes up and her family is pissed off or shitty to her for some reason. I guess they're, again, just annoyed that she inconvenienced them in this terrible way. And so she's going to hang out with her, air quotes, friends. For Christmas. Because she doesn't want to be home, which makes sense. She doesn't want to be in the place where she had a tragedy. She doesn't want to be with her family. So she wants to go hang out with them at some cabin. And it's 3 of her friends. And there's a really sort of, honestly, fairly charming kind of ditzy girl. And then there's her supposedly her best friend, and then her boyfriend. And then pretty immediately it's clear that her best friend and her boyfriend are banging. And they don't want to tell her.
That would be a rough spot to be in. They didn't handle it well.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's say this happened. You feel shitty about it. You don't really know how to tell her. And you don't really know how to, like, she's like, hey, I want to come hang out with you guys for Christmas. And you don't know how to be like, that's not the best idea. So she, you guys are all hanging out together. And as far as she knows, you're all like best friends, your family. You would think at a fucking minimum, you would, like, I don't know, keep it in your pants and keep your shit together, like, during this little, like, holiday excursion that they're on. But no, that's not possible. And there's a scene where main girl is talking to her boyfriend, and she's like, we should probably go get, nice and cozy. And he's like, nah, that's cool. I'm good. And he makes up some shit. He's like, no, the doctor said you couldn't have sex for at least a month, which is, again, absolutely bananas. And she's like, oh, they didn't tell me that. And he's like, yep, sorry, that is what it is. And he's literally, I know I sound like I'm being smug, but this is literally how he's kind of talking to her. He's like, yep, I mean, what you gotta do? And she's like, oh, well, I mean, okay, I guess. Meanwhile, while, she's like, hey, I would like to, cozy up to my supposed boyfriend. And he's like, yeah, I think not. I think we're good. Rain check. Behind her is her best friend sitting on a counter, seductively sucking on a candy cane, while her boyfriend is very distracted by this candy cane sucking. And it's obvious that they're like bound chicka bow bow, and
bound chicka bow wow. I like
it's that. It's like, girl and boy, like, your supposed best friend and girlfriend has been in a coma for a year after trying to kill herself. It's a very tragic fucking story. She's in a real bad place. She's like, I don't have anyone. I can't really go home to my family. So you guys are my family, and I want to spend Christmas with you. And last Christmas is when I had my massive trauma that almost killed me. And also, I have no idea that you guys have hooked up while I was in this coma. And this is how they're behaving. So, yeah, sympathy is kind of out the window at this point. So, fuck her friends. They suck. Except for I kind of like the weird girl. She's kind of charming.
The one that gets the dildo for Mystery Santa? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like she and I could be friends.
Really now?
Yeah, I like her a lot.
Because she hates men and you hate men?
Well, I mean,
yeah,
that's kind of all women, honestly, at this point.
Well, I'm enjoying hearing you trash a movie because you don't do that much.
Well, I don't even know if I'm trashing it. I mean, it's ridiculous for show, but like, I don't know that I didn't enjoy it because I think I did. Spoiler alert.
I loved it. I really did.
But from this point on, what I started to do is I started to literally write down every line of dialogue because every line of dialogue was more insane than the last line. And I couldn't believe I was hearing it and I had to document it. I had to be like, wait, now they're saying this. Like, okay, no, wait a minute.
Well, what makes it some of the words you use, like nutter butter and batshit crazy. What makes it nutter butters and batshit crazy? All
right, I'm glad you asked that question.
Good. I'm glad I did too.
Because I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you and I'm going to tell the audience.
Because I wasn't experiencing anything that was nutter butter or batshitty.
Okay. So
okay.
I've got a lot of answers for that question. But
tell me the right thing to think.
I'm going to start with this. Do you have your messenger open?
I could.
Okay, well, open it up.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I'm going to send you something.
Okay. Oh, wow.
All right. Let me know when you get it open.
I got it.
Okay, perfect. So when I started basically writing down everything they were saying, I was like, oh my God. Rather than just try to articulate what's happening to people, I thought we would do a little scene reenactment.
I love those.
And this is from very early in the film. This is from like right when they're like at the cabin and they're basically asking her like, okay, so seriously, what the hell happened last Christmas? And she's trying to explain, what's going on. And I've cut out, just because there's 3 people talking, I've cut out a little bit, but this is pretty much like verbatim what is happening in the scene. And so Jamie, you have the yellow, so you're gonna kick us off. But you've got the highlighted. You can see like the different parts, right?
I can see.
Okay, sweet. So whenever you're ready, you kick us off. And get us started, and I want people to experience this with us.
Well, do you want the people to know who we're playing? Technically, or
it doesn't. Well, I'm playing the main girl,
Multiverse Zendaya,
and you're playing. I've merged a couple of her friends.
Yeah, her friends.
But mostly it's her best friend that's having this conversation.
Let's get into it.
You can tell us whatever happened that night. This is a safe place.
There's no point in talking about it. You probably won't believe me.
Well, try me. I believe in astrology. No, I'm serious, MJ. Why wouldn't we believe you?
Because people believe what they want to. And if information comes along that conflicts with that, it's ignored.
Yeah, confirmation bias.
I didn't try to commit suicide. Somebody tried to kill me.
What? Is it someone we know?
Kind of. It was Santa.
Santa Claus.
Yes.
Big belly, white beard, red hat.
And a mask.
Okay. True crime buff here. If it was Santa, what was his weapon of choice?
A knife.
What kind of knife?
A regular butcher knife. probably from my kitchen.
Guys, Santa isn't real, and he doesn't wear a mask and go around killing people.
Okay, but what if Santa is real? I've been doing research, and there are so many different Santa mythologies. Okay, my mom, she's from Iceland. And in their culture, Santa is a monstrous woman who has a cat who devours people who aren't wearing new clothes. She has 13 children who descend from the mountains on Christmas, one of them who has a giant meat hook to impale animals, and another who lurks outside waiting to steal baked goods.
That's the reason why we leave the cookies out.
Yeah, probably. And did you know that Satan, his nickname is Old Nick? Old Nick. Like Old Saint Nick? Do you guys not see the similarities here? Satan, Santa, and what about Krampus? Santa's assistant who literally drags naughty children to hell?
Just to clarify, some psycho dressed up as Santa Claus and broke into your house and tried to kill you. I mean, how did the police not discover this?
Because he didn't break in. He came through the chimney. It wasn't some psycho. It was actually him.
Just to clarify, Santa Claus flew here from the North Pole, pulled by flying reindeer, and in between stops, dropping off My Little Ponies and Nintendo Switches, he put on a mask, slid down your chimney, took a knife from your kitchen, and slit your wrist.
I'm telling the truth. End scene. You guys. Like, I think I have much more, but I do think I rest my case. Like, Jamie is like, I don't know what's wrong with the dialogue, and I just need you guys to have heard that scene and then ask yourself if anything is wrong with this dialogue. If it is not utter and complete certifiable banana pancakes.
So that is how you define banana, not banana pancakes, Nutter Butters.
I mean, do you genuinely not? Do you think that is not next level insane?
It's not good. I wouldn't call it insane.
Okay. So you need more evidence.
For me, insane means over the top. It means, like...
That was insane.
Like triple X rated gore and violence. Like, that's insane to me. This is actually quite quiet. Quite a quiet movie. But please, if you have more, I want to hear.
I didn't say it's like... It's not about being, like, insane with, like, the gore and the like extremeness of it. It's being insane in how it's scripted and the dialogue that people are saying and the plot of this movie and the way these characters are interacting and how nobody is speaking in any way that is remotely in line with how normal people speak, nor are they having normal reactions, nor is any of this making even a tiniest little fragment of sense.
Well,
that's the insanity of it.
The reason I must like it then is because I don't ever really say anything that makes any sense or anything like that.
That actually, honestly, ironically, that what you just said right now makes more sense than anything you've ever said. Like, that makes a shit ton of sense.
Oh, I thought the Santa Claus lore, the Santa, Satan, waiting to steal baked goods. That was all kind of funny, I thought.
Look, there is some like really, and I think we should talk about, there's an interesting attempt here. There's some interesting things happening with equating Santa with religion and speaking about mythology and how, it's very easy for us to dismiss certain mythology as idiotic, but other mythology we're like all in and we are very sincere in our belief of it, even though it's no less insane as the stuff that we're dismissing. I think that's a very interesting philosophical conversation. It's just funny that such an interesting philosophical conversation is in a movie like this. It's kind of a disconnect, but in a way that's funny and entertaining. There's a scene, and I don't know. I just have this in my notes.
Yeah, come here. You got to give me more. I'm not convinced yet it was bad, so you got to give me more.
I'm on page 1 of 3 pages of notes, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
So they have this example of like inept law enforcement, and she tries to call 911. And she says, "Is this 911?" And this real like you redneck Southern, podunk chief of police says 911, 411. It's all the same in these parts. What the fuck are you saying?
That was funny.
And then there's a scene. I'll just tell you all my little scenes. There's a scene where I believe it's the boyfriend saying this. And because they're now being stalked by someone, all the friends. And they're all kind of running off in different directions. And chaos has ensued. This is very much towards the end of the film. And he's like, well, I mean, because they're like, what, who's doing this? What the fuck? And this is what he says. He's like, well, I mean, it must be a killer Santa. It's always the simplest explanation, right? Pavlov's dog or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then his girlfriend says, it's Occam's razor, and you're not even using it right, you dumb jock. And I was like, all right. And then they're in the middle of they're in the middle of a crisis. Like they think that there's a killer stalking them, and they're in full on panic mode. 2 seconds after this conversation, where his explanation is like, well, I mean, obviously it must be a killer Santa, which is of course, as you do, like that to him is the simplest explanation. That yes. And they haven't seen this guy, mind you. They haven't seen anything.
Well, that's what pop culture does to the young.
But it must be a killer
to
Santa.
The young formative brain.
Simplest explanation, right?
Well, sure.
So after this, yeah, sure. This is all making perfect sense. After this, where they're like, oh, who the fuck's trying to kill us? Then they're like, they look up and there's a mistletoe. And then they're like, oh, it's a mistletoe. You know what that means. And then they start making out under the mistletoe. And then they have a whole ass conversation about the nature of their relationship. As you do when you're in the middle of being stalked by what must be a killer Santa. And then during this conversation,
they had a lot to talk. They had a lot to talk out. They had a moment
conversation
alone.
after he's banged this girl while his ex-girlfriend who just woke up from a coma is, spending Christmas with them. She's like, so should we talk about this? This is when she decides to talk about it. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess we can't see each other, right? Like, that's obvious. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay.
That's kind of passive.
So, after the candy cane sucking and the, fornication that the ex walks in on, then she's like, well, I mean, obviously we're ending this, right? And she's like, yeah. Then there's a line where, to add fuel to the festive fire, best friend cheater girl is super religious. And they sort of just spring that on you. And she starts sprinkling in a bunch of like, I'm really religious talk. And there's a scene where somebody says, she was dead and came back to life. And she says, like Jesus?
Okay, all right. You got me on that one.
Right?
Yeah, all right.
And then I wrote down my next note is 50 minutes in. And I think we said that, it's an hour and 15-minute movie?
Yes.
50 minutes in, no one has died. And then in all caps, I said, please, can we kill someone? And your comment about like, oh, there's a lot of gore. There's no fucking gore. There's no deaths.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of deaths and they're
in the last 2 minutes, maybe. And we're going to talk about that. So right after I wrote my note and said, can we please fucking kill someone? First of all, I hate all these people. And second
Kill
of
the
all,
dog.
like, the hell? Boyfriend finally gets killed, but you barely see anything. He gets like hit over the head, I think, with like an axe or something. It's really quick. You just see like a thunk and like he falls down. Spoiler alert. He's not dead.
No, he's not.
But I was annoyed that he finally gets killed and I don't get to see it. Well,
Yeah.
that's because he's not dead. But then I said, so her boyfriend, cheater girl's boyfriend, has just been, I believe she believes, axe murdered. And the next scene they show is that she's slowly strolling through the woods all casual like. Like she starts running like, oh my God. But then she's just like taking a leisurely stroll through the woods. Like, do. And then there's a scene while she's strolling through the woods like everything's fine. Like she's just looking at Christmas lights. Where creepy Santa sneaks up behind her. And he gets super fucking close. Like he's like all grinding up on her. And she just goes, instead of running or screaming or freaking out, she just goes completely still. Like she goes limp. And it's really weirdly seductive. Like he kind of wraps his arms around her. And then he says, in the creepiest fucking auto-tuned voice you can imagine.
Kylo Ren. That was Kylo Ren.
I think you're giving this movie way more credit than it deserves by calling it Kylo Ren.
Well, that's what it sounded like to me.
He says, after he's like up grinding on her and wrapping his arms around her, he says, tell me, little girl, have you been naughty or nice? Okay. If you guys, are you with me yet? Does anyone think that this is a serious professional production? Then we think that she's been killed off screen again, and I was like, God fucking damn it!
Aesthetic.
Because go ahead, no, please.
Aesthetic mistakes may have been made, but that doesn't mean it doesn't.
Oh shit! Aesthetic mistakes may have been made.
Aesthetic mistakes may have been made, but that doesn't
Glorious.
mean it was okay. I'm struggling here.
No, I know, and I appreciate how much you're struggling to defend.
Because you love to grind the boot heel into my brain.
So then I believe that she's killed off screen again, and I'm pissed off because now that's two main characters killed off screen. Because the next scene we see creepy Santa dragging her body through the snow. And then we get the reveal that Dumb Boy is not dead.
Jock
And-
Boy.
What?
You said dumb boy. I said it was Jock Boy.
Is that different?
No, I stand
Okay.
corrected.
Okay. Because I believe she used the word jock as a slur to imply dumb.
Said he was dumb. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, is that offensive? Perhaps. Does he deserve it? Absolutely. I need to clarify, guys. This isn't man-hating. Like, he is the absolute worst in this. He is a terrible human being. Piece
He
of
is.
absolute shit.
It has
he
nothing to do
deserves
with
this
him
hate.
being a man or whatever he is.
I mean, being a man certainly does not help his case in this situation.
Mhm.
But he is
Nor does
not
that
only
hair.
a man, but he's a very, very bad man. A bad man.
with bad hair.
Bad hair. Bad everything. He's not good. He's not a good actor either. So that's not helping the case either.
His clothes weren't even that colorful. I mean,
No. He should not have two babes fighting over him. Let's put it that way. The next scene we have after we realize he's alive and he's wandering around is he comes upon a church out of nowhere. And when he sees the church, he starts laughing maniacally. And then he starts doing the sign of the cross over and over again and falls to his knees. Meanwhile,
well,
they're
because
playing.
he's Jewish.
Sure. And I guess the implication is that he's been saved, he's found salvation. They start playing, he's Jewish. He finds a Catholic church. They start playing creepy Latin omen type music that like Dominus.
The stuff that's supposed to make you feel comfortable about being with Jesus and everything.
The stuff that's like, Obviously, Satan is running this church kind of music. So he walks in. There's nobody there. It's completely empty. It's Christmas. And this church seems to be in the middle of nowhere. And, he walks in, looks around. And then a priest just walks up to the altar. Just saunters up to the altar. He's like, oh. And starts to be like, all right, well, okay, I've got a person. I'm going to give a sermon, which is, again, nutty. And I think the stupid boy says something like, I don't have time for this. And the priest says, I did write down some of these lines word for word because
Priest was great.
He says, oh, don't worry, son. We're Lutherans here. I'll have you out in no time.
Now, what was that? I don't get it.
You don't ask me what any of this was.
Do Lutherans come quickly, or what is?
Yikes!
I don't understand.
Bump. I think I don't know. I can't. I'm at a loss for words after I've been talking for 4 hours straight about this movie. So when he's like, "We're Lutherans, we come early," stupid boy says, "I think Santa's real and he's trying to kill us." And I wrote that this priest is a crazy ass weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, he starts doing some kind of insane soliloquy, and he harkens back to the opening scene that we did such a beautiful reenactment of. And he does the whole Santa, Satan, what's the difference? That's an actual quote, guys. I'm not making that up. So then stupid boy says, look, I'm Jewish, but the Santa I know doesn't wear a mask and try to kill people. It's like, I don't know anything about Santa, but the Santa I do know doesn't wear a mask and try to kill people.
I don't know what kind of crazy ass Lutheran Santa's running around here, but the one I know.
Unreal. And also, I think it's funny that he points out that he's Jewish.
Several times during the movie, actually. Like, it's a character point.
But then starts talking about Santa as if Santa is like a religious figure, you know? Like, look, I don't believe in baby Jesus, so I can't get on board with any of this Santa shit.
Well, the unfortunate thing is, for a lot of people who aren't Catholics and Christians, they're confused by all this because it's bullshit that we're supposed to subscribe to.
Yeah, because it's a pagan holiday that's supposed to be religious.
It's a dog's breakfast. It's a mess. Thanks,
Crazy. So then the priest gets killed, and that's our first real death. And there's not much to it. He gets stabbed. Or I think he gets a knife thrown.
Yeah.
I think Santa like throws the knife and it goes through his stomach. And then stupid boy like has this really like insane, like he's like, Father! And he's like screaming because I have like 25 exclamation marks after it.
Well, that was his moment of clarity. That tragedy, witnessing that, made him become Catholic.
Okay.
In your rating of food items, now, is this a banana Nutter Butter or is this just bananas?
It's crackers and cheese is what it is.
Is that bigger? Is that bigger than Nutter Butter?
It's just because this film is layered and has so many levels. It's just another level, you know.
Okay.
Not really a hierarchy. It's just when you peel back the really complex onion of this film, it just reveals more layers and more food items.
Okay.
So then, a spiritual weirdo girl who I like is on her. We cut back and forth between the different characters, and she's wandering around trying to. They got separated. She's trying to find people, and she has this scene. She says, "Nikki, Jess, Nathan," and then there's a pause, and then she goes, "Santa." And I'm rolling on the floor laughing. So then we get the big, and I have put this in quotes, reveal, which I'm going to spoil it now, guys. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I guess tune away. But trust me, you don't give a shit if you're spoiled, because you're not spoiled because you should already have figured this out a long time ago. But Crazy Girl is Killer Santa. So then we get the other death that we've been like hankering for is Jess, Cheater Girl's death. And she does arguably get the very best death in the movie. Not that there is a lot of competition, but she gets her eyes gouged out with a candy cane.
That was awesome.
It is outrageous and fun, is what I wrote. I'm not gonna say anything more than other than my last note is the fucking ending.
Yeah.
And I said,
yeah.
And
floaty feet, man.
Right. And
she's in front of a fireplace, and little floaty legs, floaty feet come back down the chimney again. What are we supposed to do with that?
Well, we're supposed to be like, it's supposed to be this.
She's confused and schizophrenic. Yes, which is exactly what
potentially
a horror movie.
Or she's right, or there was a killer Santa, and she's just now like snapped, like broken because of the experience she's gone through. Like I think the point of that scene is that you're supposed to leave going like, I don't know, is there a killer Santa? Is there not a killer Santa? What's happening? And fine, okay, but again, I say to you, okay, before I say what I'm going to say, there was an interview with the director of this film where he was like, yeah, maybe we'll do a sequel. I have some ideas. It kind of depends on how well received this was. He said that maybe he'll do a sequel. And if he does do a sequel, he plans to call it Santa Is Real. And his next quote was like, so that should tell you a little bit about like where we're headed. And I'm like,
I like that.
Does it though? What the hell?
Well, yeah, it tells me that we have the schizophrenic multiverse Zendaya Santa, and we also have possibly another Santa coming down the chimney with his floaty shoes. So
okay, but are we to
maybe it's going to be like an Art and Sienna. Was that her name? I'm sorry. I'm from Terrifier movies. Maybe it's going to be like a good versus evil, and he's going to come and you've been pretending to be me. I'm going to show you.
Is that your pitch? Is that what you pitch for like the sequel to this film?
It's about as much of a pitch that it deserves. Sure.
But I have a serious question that I need an answer to.
Oh boy.
So in this universe, and let's assume the sequel is what we think it would be. Is this actually Santa, and Santa has been evil the whole time, and that's the premise?
God, I hope.
And why is he wearing the crazy mask?
No, that wasn't Santa. That was Multiverse Zendaya with the mask. That was her the whole time.
So,
but now
in the beginning,
her activities caught the attention of the real anti-Santa.
Okay.
And so at the end of that movie, little Santa feet came down, and the real Santa is going to say, "I approve."
So then my question for you is, what's the inciting incident that turned her into a psychopath? In the beginning,
that's a good question.
Does she just kill herself and imagine that Santa? Or is that Psycho Santa in the beginning?
Doesn't all of this make you want to buy a ticket to Santa Is Real?
At this point, I was like, this surely this is all intentionally like out of its mind. And if it is self-aware, I'm sort of all in. Like, I'm having a really good time with it.
I don't know. I didn't really sense. Well, there were pockets of humor. You have liked and given a clean green light pass on some shit. So I reject your attempts to make me feel bad, because I'm going to give this one a little bit of positive vibes. I reject it. I reject you.
Here's the thing. I like this film. But what I think is interesting is I'm saying...
How could you possibly like this film after the past 20 minutes of our conversation?
Because I'm saying that this film is leaning into its stupidity. If this wasn't meant to be crafted with sincerity and love, then I
think it was.
Really missed the mark. And you cannot say, and therefore, great job, filmmakers. I'm saying if it was meant to be idiotic, then like they did a really good job, and it's pretty funny and fun and entertaining and witty, and I loved it.
It was flawed, but I still enjoyed it, and I still thought it was cool. I liked floaty feet.
On to the next quest.